Here we are at the headquarters of CLS, the Centre of Language Studies. And you see our great campus with a lot of facilities. Max Planck there hidden in green. The big building there that hosts the Baby Research Centre and the DCC. And across there you see the Donderscentrum Institute. We host about 150 researchers and 50 PhD students. Most is funded by external partners, which indicate how successful we are. With the Max Planck Institute we have, since its foundation, collaborated. Many of the researchers work here, and also many of our PhD students and researchers work over there, so there's really exchange going on. The Baby Research Centre is founded a good 10 years ago. And that's an interesting collaboration with the Max Planck, with the Faculty of Social Sciences and the Faculty of Arts, the CLS in particular. That is an interesting collaboration where we focus on different aspects of baby development, of which language is of course one important aspect. One of the new developments in the study of language is how it functions in the brain. And therefore we are expanding on our collaboration with the FC Donders. We hired a few postdocs to make the bridge to the FC Donders. We hope to see a lot of new research going from that area. The study of language is actually extremely complex. We study language in the brain, we study language as a means of communication. There are many, many aspects of it. Some of them, to study in an interesting way, you need techniques that are not available here in the CLS. And there are researchers on campus that are much more knowledgeable about these techniques. So by collaborating, we can achieve much more than we can do as an institute on its own.
The Baby Research Centre actually started as an initiative of researchers who were interested in language acquisition. And only over the years, the focus of the Baby Research Centre broadened to include also other areas like research on social cognitive development. Right now, there are different groups within the Baby Research Centre, and these groups collaborate very successfully. And I think we profit a lot from this collaboration between people with different backgrounds and also different views on and different interests in the area of early development. The CLS is an integral part of the Baby Research Centre because a lot of the researchers doing research in the Baby Research Centre are a part of the CLS. So the Baby Research Centre was the first research centre in the Netherlands to do baby research, to do infant research. And at the moment, I think we are actually the largest infant lab in the Netherlands, so the lab with most researchers affiliated to it, but also in which the most babies in the Netherlands are being tested. And I think also internationally we have quite a reputation.
The question about what phonological representations humans have is a very linguistic question. So I'm profiting a lot from the from the in-depth linguistic knowledge that my supervisor at the CLS can offer me. But I'm also profiting a lot from the psycholinguistic and practical knowledge and of course also theoretical knowledge that I can get from my supervisors at the Max Planck Institute. I'm conducting all my research at the Baby Research Centre, which offers me incredible facilities to conduct baby research because with infants you have to use special methods, you need special equipment, and the Baby Research Centre offers all that I need for my PhD. I'm using behavioral methods where I use video coding of infants' gaze behavior. I'm also using online eye tracking with a remote eye tracker, and I'm also using the facilities at the Donderscentrum Institute to collect infants' brain responses to certain sounds. In my experiment, Babies will sit in front of a big screen, and we use their gaze behavior as an indirect measure of their sound discrimination. So what they see on the screen is the same all the time, but they hear different sounds. And the logic is habituation, which is a concept from psychology that we use in baby research a lot, also in psycholinguistic baby research. So that means that we let the baby hear one sound over and over again until it habituates, which basically means that it starts finding it very boring. If the baby then notices the difference to a new sound, it will find it more exciting again when the new sound appears. So it will look back to the screen more than it did before it habituated. So in that way we can see if the baby hears the difference or not.
Collaboration with the CLS members, we have a whole range of them. I mean, one that I could stress would be the collaboration in working together to increase the knowledge of linguistic diversity. So in our group, just as in many of the groups of people at the CLS, for example, Peter Mausken's group, among others, we spend a lot of our time in the field in other countries in the world outside of Europe, collecting data on the diversity of spoken languages. Some of the work that's going on over at the Radboud University is more focused on certain kinds of linguistic questions. Some of the work that we're doing here at the MPI is focused on other kinds. So we, for example, are especially interested in doing video recordings of conversational interaction. Some of the best practice of this collaboration really bearing fruit has to do with the way in which we're pooling our data together from the different language groups, the different linguistic communities around the world, and we don't just work alone in our offices, but we actually bring that data together. For example, in the larger documentation projects, we bring the video recordings, the audio recordings of different languages, whether it's from Africa or South America or Asia, together into one place. One of the most developed and state-of-the-art kind of systems we have in the world.
We have long-standing collaboration, and it's instantiated in a number of ways. For example, we actually have a corridor upstairs which is dedicated to the CLS. It's called, we call it CLSM. It's a wing of CLS researchers that are placed here because they can exploit best the lab facilities that we have in-house. We also have a research school which is shared with CLS. It's called the International Max Planck Research School in Language Sciences. And it connects the Donderscentrum Institute, CLS and the Max Planck Institute within a sort of single research school focused on language. That's actually, I think, quite innovative because it crosses 4 faculties and makes the facilities of all of these different labs available to students.
Scientists of language increasingly realize that they need to study language in all its richness, so including not just the audio but also the video. Now, to do that, to analyze conversations with video recordings, you need special software. One popular program for this is ELAN, developed here at the Max Planck Institute. This program is used by me to analyze my conversations from Ghana, but it's also used at CLS by people working on sign language, for instance. It not only shows the video and plays the audio, but it allows you to make annotations that are aligned with the video and the audio. So here is a sentence in Siwu. I click on that and I can play it. And I can go to the next sentence and I can just transcribe them one by one. And at each moment, not only do I hear the language, but I also see the gestures, the facial expressions, the way in which people behave. A program like this is especially useful, of course, to people who work on sign language. And indeed, the sign language research group at CLS has been very important in the development of the software from the earliest years.
CLS and Donders share an interest in the studies on language and communication sciences. Nijmegen, the whole university, that's one of the strong research foci of our university. And of course the CLS has different types of expertise than here in the Donderscentrum Institute and the Donderscentrum. Here we focus especially on neuroimaging methods that allow us to study how the human brain supports this complex function of the language. There is no animal model for the language system, so in that sense we are dependent on methods to image the human brain in action. That's something which we can do only in the recent 1 or 2 decades. And of course that's also very interesting for researchers at CLS, because in some sense that allows us to connect studies of behavioral and structural description of language with understanding of how that's organized in the human brain. So in order to ask the right kind of questions to the brain, we need people that have expertise on this complex function. And that's of course where the people of the CLS have expertise. In addition, CLS has positioned 2 researchers here that form the connection between the researchers of the CLS and our research here.
We are looking at whether different speakers of different languages interpret information in a similar way depending on the linguistic marking. How do they detect what is important in their message? The EEG is a technique that measures electrophysiological activity in the human brain. So actually we present stimuli to the participant and we measure what happens in the brain, in the electrical response of the brain when a stimulus is presented. We average across multiple participants and we have a lot of trials, and then we are actually able to make conclusions about what kind of changes happen in the brain. The subject comes here and then we prepare the subjects. We put all the electrodes and the subject sits in the room, and then they are presented with auditory stimuli where they listen to to various sentences, and we measure how their activity changes over time. And one of my functions is to strengthen the connections between the Centre for Language Studies and the Donderscentrum Institute, and to increase the neuroimaging research that is done in the linguistics departments.
My research is also on Papiamento spoken in the Netherlands. There's quite a large number of speakers of Papiamento in the Netherlands, and my main interest is in the extent to which Dutch, as spoken in the Netherlands, to which Dutch influences Papiamento that is spoken in the Netherlands. What we're going to look at now in this experiment is the influence of Dutch future tense marking on Papiamento future tense marking, because there are some slight differences between the way Dutch can mark future tense and the way in which Papiamento can mark it. What I really like about brain imaging techniques and EEG techniques is that they measure not directly behavior, but really the cognitive processes that are going on. We can really tap into the cognitive processes and also see whether certain cognitive unconscious processes are, whether we see the same cognitive unconscious processes back that we also see in behavioral experiments and vice versa. So I'm actually on the payroll of CLS, but I'm doing this experiment here at the Donderscentrum Institute.
So you've seen this wonderful campus with great researchers, great research institutes. And by collaborating on the study of language with those excellent partners on campus, we will strengthen the CLS even more. Together, we can achieve so much more on this campus.